Hi everyone, welcome back. Hope you guys are having a great day. So this is a clip from a previously recorded video. This is a much shorter clip of it, but as always, not financial advice, for entertainment only. Do your own research, and I'm invested in closing companies. And if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. And let's get into the clip. So that's it for that one. Let's take a look at the quota results for the miners here, and we grade those on a bunch of metrics here and compare quarters to quarters as well. And that is over here. So for the quarterly metrics and grades on these miners, we'll go over all the different metrics that we use for them, and we split it up into basically operations side of things, and we also take a look at their financial side of things as well. Okay, so the first one up bad it is quarter over quarter hash rate growth. So we're looking to see how much they grew from the prior quarter in the current quarter that they just reported on, and give them basically a score. The one that grew the most gets a 1. The one that grew the least gets the lowest number down below. So Marathon came in number 1. They increased their hash rate the most, 6.2 exahash, followed by TeraWolf, 1.5, almost 1.6. Then you got Cypher at 938 petahash, Mawson at 927. Sphere came in there pretty nicely as well, 567. Bit Digital at 529. And you can see the list going down below. Core Scientific, unfortunately, they are in bankruptcy, Chapter 11 right now. So they are getting out of it possibly sometime later on this year if all the creditors agree on the terms. But we still don't know what the dilution is going to be for the individual shareholders that are still holding the stock. But they actually had to sell some of their miners to pay some of the debt down. So they actually sold or got rid of about 1.1 exahash of mining power in order to do that. So that's why they're at the bottom there. Okay, quarter to year to date hash rate growth. So this is looking at how much they grew basically at the end of the quarter year to date. So Marathon came in again number 1. They added about 10.7 exahash, followed by Cypher 3.8, then TeraWolf at 3.4 exahash, Hive at 1.2, Riot at 1. Then you got Bitfarms and all the rest down below. Core Scientific, again, like I said, they had to sell miners, so that's why they're down at the bottom. And then any miner that was tied, you'll see that I give them the same score for that number there. Okay, let's see here. So that's that one. Then if we look at year over year hash rate added, we can see that core Marathon added the most, 13.8 right now. Then you got followed by Riot, 6 exahash, Core Scientific 5.8, Cypher 5.7, TeraWolf 4.7, CleanSpark 4.2, BitDeer 3.8. A lot of these guys like Cypher, TeraWolf are new miners that just started really ramping up this past year. So that's why we're seeing huge increases for them. Excuse me. And you got the other ones down below here. You got Hive and Hut 8 actually being basically losing hash rate. And the main reason for that is because they were mining with GPUs that was no longer available to them come September. So we're going to see that kind of possibly improve for them going forward. But that's the reason why they're at the bottom. They actually lost exahash because of it. Then when we look at quarter Bitcoins per exahash, so this is the efficiency part of things. Hive came in actually number 1 here at 261 Bitcoins per exahash, followed by CleanSpark at 242, then Bitfarms at 239, Cypher at 238, Core at 232, and you got all the ones down below, and Hut 8 came in last here as well. It's not listed here, but Hut 8 is down here. Last one, they were at 153.7 exahash per Bitcoin, or BTC per exahash. Okay, that's that one. Quarter BTC mined, how much each of the miners mined in the quarter. Core Scientific mined the most here, 3,470, followed by Marathon, 2,926. Then you got Riot at 1,775, followed by CleanSpark at 1,624, and then Cypher at 1,259, with a close second of Bitfarms at 1,223. But those are basically our top 5 right there. Bottom ones was Mawson, Sphere 3D, DMG, DigiHost, Bit Digital, and Hut 8. And then we'll look at the quarter BTC per million shares. So how much, so we look at the number of shares outstanding at the end of the quarter, BTC mined for that quarter, how many basically Bitcoins did they mine per 1 million shares? Okay, Marathon came in at number 1 at 16.79, followed by Sphere at 14.9. Sphere only has, 11 million shares right now. They did I think a reverse split. That's the reason for them. Mawson, also 10.7. They don't have a lot of shares here. Let me see here. They got 16.5 million shares, I think. If I'm not mistaken, if I make that a little bit bigger. Yeah. They got 16.5 million shares, so that's why that's pretty high on there. CleanSpark was at 10.639, and then Hive was at 9.93. So those are the top 5 there. Bottom ones was DMG, Hut 8, Bit Digital, TeraWolf, and Bitfarms. Okay. And then we look at also growth left in exahash or petahash, depending on however you want to look at it. Riot still has a lot. They have 9.4 exahash to grow. Based on what they reported, they could grow beyond that if they actually execute on the agreement that they have with, I think it was Canon. CleanSpark has about 8.5 left to go. So they're in second place. Marathon, 5.5 more to go. Hut 8, and this is based because of their USBTC merger. Otherwise, they wouldn't be growing at all. But they have about 4.9 exahash left to grow with the merger of USBTC. And then you got BitDeer with 3.8 left. Those are the top 5 there. Bottom ones are Argo, Core Scientific, no plans. Growth left. DigiHost, only 182. Hive, 280 right now. That's been reported. DMG, 315 petahash. BitDigital, 321. So you can see the big differences here on those as well. Okay. So based on that, those are the metrics for basically performance, growth, things like that in the quarter, and what's going on in the future, things for them. Quarterly financials. So we look at compensation versus revenue. So we do a ratio on that, or percentage, to see which ones are basically more efficient or using less to pay for compensation and things like that from revenue. And BitDeer came in number 1 with only 17.5%. DMG number 2 at 18.9%. Core number 3 at 19.2%. Hive number 4 at 20%. DigiHost at number 5 at 22%. And then everybody else comes down. Worst ones are Sphere 3D, Cypher, Mawson, Hut 8, Bit Digital. Those are the bottom 5 there. And everybody else is kind of in the middle there as well. Let's see what else here. Price to book ratio. Lower is obviously better, meaning that they're possibly undervalued. Higher means that the companies could be possibly overvalued. We got Mawson coming in first, followed by Sphere 3D, Core Scientific, DMG, DigiHost are the top 5. Bottom ones are BitDeer, Marathon, TeraWolf, Argo, Cypher as well. And then the rest are kind of in the middle there as well. So we look at that. Current ratios. This is obviously higher is better. So Marathon came in number 1 with 14.9. We got Bit Digital at 10.3, followed by BitDeer at 7.9, Hut 8 at 6.9, Riot at 6.4. Those are the top 5 there. The top 5 worst ones are TeraWolf, Mawson, Argo, Core Scientific, DigiHost, and then you got the rest obviously in the middle there. Then we look at current quarter over quarter current ratio. So did they improve on that or did they get worse on it? And we want to see an increase in that. So the higher the increase, the better the score. Riot came in at number 1. They increased by 3.2 points. DMG increased by 0.9 points. CleanSpark by 0.6. Bitfarms by 0.2. Core Scientific by 0.12. And that's the top 5 there. The worst ones was BitDigital was down 17.6, it looks like. Hut 8, BitDeer, Marathon, and Hive are down towards the bottom there. They actually had worse numbers compared quarter over quarter. Then when we look at the debt to equity ratio, Argo, I got a negative 41 for them, along with Core Scientific 0.48. I don't know if that's really good there. I'm trying to figure out how to. I think that's probably not good because they're not being valued properly on their balance sheet there. But if you take those out, which are kind of iffy there, Riot would be kind of number 1 there. But I graded it the way it is right now. So you got Riot, DMG, CleanSpark, Bit Digital, Hut 8 being basically in the top 5 or top 7, depending on how you want to look at it. Marathon, TeraWolf, BitDeer, Mawson, Sphere 3D came in at the last part of it. So obviously lower is better on this one. Quarter over quarter debt to equity ratio. So did they improve on that quarter over quarter? We can see here that Argo decreased the most here from where they were, followed by Marathon. Marathon was down 0.105. Riot was down 0.043. CleanSpark was down 0.04. And then Bitfarms was down 0.005. And then these guys actually got worse at their debt to equity ratios. Mawson leading the pack here, followed by Sphere 3D, TeraWolf, Core Scientific, and Bit Digital as well. Okay. And then here's the total scores for the 7 metrics that are growth based. We got the top leaders here based on all the scores. Excuse me. I combine them all together here for the total metric score on growth. Marathon came in number 1 here. Cypher came in at second place with 37 points. CleanSpark in third spot with 39. Riot in number 4 spot with 41. And then TerraWolf came in at number 5 with 46. And then we got Bitfarms, Hive, Sphere 3D Core, Bitdeer, BitDigital, Moss and DigiHost, Argo, Hot 8, and DMG. Now, Riot, some might argue that they get curtailment credits from electricity and things like that. That possibly could have been moved up a little bit here as well, because they did get quite a bit of cash for curtailing. Okay, but this is kind of the way that I look at them right now. And then if we look at the total score metrics for the financial side of things, we can see that DMG came in number 1 with the lowest score, which is good. And then Riot came in at number 2 spot, CleanSpark at number 3, followed by Core Scientific, and then Bitfarms. Then you got Hive, Argo, DigiHost, Marathon, Hot 8, Bitdeer, BitDigital, Cypher, Moss, and Sphere 3D, and TerraWolf. TerraWolf, if we look at TerraWolf here, they scored pretty high on a lot of these here. The only one that they scored pretty low, or kind of in the middle, it looks like, was compensation per revenue, and then quarter over quarter current ratio. They came in also in the middle there. That's why they've scored pretty high here as it is. So there is concern with TerraWolf because of the debt they do have and the amount of it that they do have. They have been growing nicely. They've been operating otherwise pretty nicely as well. But that debt is definitely kind of floating over them right now. Okay, so based on the total 13 score metrics where we include the financials and the growth side of things, this is the way things stack up. Riot came in at number 1 at 70 points. Marathon at 74, CleanSpark at 73, so they're number 3 spot. Bitfarms at number 4 spot. Cypher at number 5 spot. And then you got Core Scientific, Hive, DMG, Bitdeer, TerraWolf, Sphere 3D, BitDigital, DigiHost, Argo, and Mawson towards the end here. And am I missing one? I am missing one. There we go. Hot 8. Hot 8 came in last. And the reason for that is mainly because of their growth. Their operation side of things has been atrocious, unfortunately, this past year. So that's why they're at the very end here. I'm hoping that with the merger with USBTC, they will finally get their stuff together and be able to get more in the middle side of things, or even get towards the the better scores on this chart. But that's kind of where they are at right now. Okay, so that's just regular metrics the way they are. I like to also weigh the metrics a little bit here to look at things that are more important to me, which have a little bit more possibly weight to what they're going to be possibly going forward. And here's the way things stacked up as well. You guys might not agree with this. You might have different metrics that you want to weight them differently. But basically, quarter over quarter hash rate growth, I did that as a 0.5 of the original score. So basically half of that. I don't think it's that important. Year-to-date hash rate growth, also not very important. So that's only half of that. Year-over-year hash rate growth, same thing, half. BTC per exahash, that's the metric for efficiency. I think that's important. That's a 2, so a 2x for me. I'm multiplying those scores by 2. And then growth left, I think, is also very important. That's also a 2x for me there, so that's a growth part of it. BTC mined, it's important, but for me not as important as it is for BTC as BTC per million shares. BTC per million shares lets me know that if Bitcoin goes up in value, the number of shares they have and how much they're mining will impact how much the stock will actually go up, because that will have an impact, positive impact on revenue, unfortunately. So that's important to me as well. So I left that at 1 basically there. And here's the way things stacked up on this. If you look at it all here, we can see that CleanSpark came in number 1 with 27.5 points. Marathon number 2 spot with 33.5 points. Cypher with 42. Bitfarms with 45. And Riot with 46. So those are the top 5 miners right there. This is just on the growth part of things, okay? It's not the combine, but this is just for the growth. And then you got Hive, TerraWolf, Sphere 3D, Bitdeer. Why do I have Bitdeer in here twice? Oh, I got them in there twice. Okay. Made a mistake there, but they're in there twice. Core Scientific, BitDigital, DigiHost, Mawson, Hot 8, DMG, and then we got Argo here at the very end at 87. So those are the way things stacked up. Now, when we look at the total scores for the financial side of things, weighted, I think, for me at least, the current ratio is important, so I give it a 2x. Debt to equity ratio is also important, 2x. This is the PB ratio. 2x on that one. Compensation versus revenue is also important to me. Quarter-over-quarter debt to equity ratios. How do they perform? That's not really important to me. So that's a 1 and a 1 for the current ratio, quarter-over-quarter as well. So the way things stacked up here, it's a little bit different. Based on those metrics, DMG came in number 1, Riot at number 2 spot, Core Scientific number 3 spot, CleanSpark number 4, Bitfarms number 5. And you got Hive, DigiHost, Hut 8, Argo, BitDigital, Marathon, BitDeer, Cypher, Sphere 3D, Mawson, and last one will be TerraWolf again on the financial side of things. You can see that when we look at the financials, TerraWolf comes in at the last part of it. And if we look at growth and operations side of things, TerraWolf comes in more towards the middle, even closer towards the front of the class here a little bit. Okay, so that's kind of what's really weighing them down on the scores. So when we combine all the scores on the weighted part of things, this is the way things stack up. You got CleanSpark coming in number 1 with 96.5 points, Riot with 100 points, number 2 spot, Bitfarms coming in at number 3 spot with 116, Core Scientific 123, so they're number 4 spot, Marathon number 5 spot with 124 points, and that's actually kind of tied with DMG here for the number 5 spot. And then you got Hive, Cypher, BitDeer, BitDigital, DigiHost, Sphere 3D, Hut 8, Argo, Mawson, and TerraWolf. And to compare them to how they would have looked, well, compared to the non-weighted metrics, pull this chart together for you guys so you can see here. The green lines are based on where they were in the weighted metrics. So Riot, without the weighted part side of things, came in at number 1, Marathon at number 2 spot, CleanSpark number 3, Bitfarms number 4, and then Cypher number 5. But with the weighted metrics, this is the way they kind of stacked up here. Cypher actually went to the furthest back here at 7 with the weighted numbers. So let me know what you guys think of all this stuff. We still have a couple of months. Well, we have basically a month left. We're going to be in September coming up here shortly, tomorrow actually, and then we are going to be done with Q3 already, which is just bizarre and how fast the time is flying right now. But let me know what you guys think of all of these numbers. Obviously, to me, any one of these guys that are in the top 5, whether you look at the weighted metrics or the non-weighted metrics, those are the kind of the go-to ones. The only one that would maybe question here is DMG. DMG obviously has not grown a lot. I wouldn't put a lot of cash into that one. The other ones here are TerraWolf. And TerraWolf one is also a tough one because of the debt. The debt is concerning there. But they might be able to get out of it depending on where Bitcoin goes. Okay, we'll have to see how they continue going forward as well. But in that top 5, I think are no problem. Core Scientific, like I said, is also going to be risky. So take that one out, if anything, because that's a high risk, high reward, depending on how well they get out of the Chapter 11 bankruptcy and how much the shareholders get diluted because of it. Okay, so there might be some upside to them, yes, but it's definitely risky. Okay, and what else here? I think that's it. Yeah, just let me know what you guys think, whether you agree or disagree, or if you would have weighted them differently and things like that. But we'll leave it at that, and we'll discuss some more down in the comments below.